guys, it's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing another episode of
Watch. Oh, it's Watch List Wednesday. I'll add it to the list.
It's actually been a really long time since I've done one of these. The last couple of times I had one of these videos was when I was watching legit series. I'm not doing that right now. Today, I'm watching a movie that won like 5 Oscars last year. The movie Anora. I've been wanting to watch this pretty much since the Oscars came out, and I was like, oh, this movie actually was really good. I don't know. I haven't seen it, and I did not have any intentions to see it because I know virtually nothing about the movie still as of right now. I bought this the other day when I was at Barnes and Noble. They have a little like Criterion collection section, and I'm incredibly excited to watch it, but still the only thing that I know about it is that Mikey Madison's character plays a stripper. I have no idea what the plot is. So we're going to go ahead and pop this in the Blu-ray player. I'm going to go ahead and watch it, and then I'll come back with my initial thoughts, reactions, and review. Oh, wow. What was that? I'm going to be totally honest with you. That movie was interesting. That was a very unique movie. I'm going to go ahead and say, I think that there's a lot of great comedic bits throughout this movie. I think that this movie does an incredible job with like the pacing. Everything is like so fast. And I do think that like it really helps that like when everything's like Anora starts off, just like a regular, stripper. She does exotic dances or whatever. She's really good at like manipulating people, getting rich guys to, spend a lot of money on her, take her to the back rooms, whatever. Stripper culture, very fun. They do a great job with it in this movie. But you can tell she's broke. She's somebody who kind of like hates her job, doesn't necessarily seem to have much going on for her aside from work because she's just working to pay rent at this shitty apartment with a shitty roommate. She seems like, a very stereotypical like person who's kind of in like the lower tax bracket that you would tend to be following in one of these movies. She feels very real, and I think that that's great. I think that Mikey Madison does an incredible job playing her. But then she goes and she meets Yvonne. One of those was pronounced correctly, I'm hoping. This Russian who's, a little alcoholic, drug addict who is just having the time of his life 24/7 because his parents are rich and he can do whatever the hell he wants. And they do a really good job with characterizing him as I think a lot of rich people are, where they feel very invincible. They can do whatever the hell they want because like they're rich, they grew up, they don't have any sense of consequences whatsoever. So all throughout this movie, he kind of manipulates Anora and kind of like, pays her an ungodly amount of money so that he could be like, his personal stripper. And then eventually he's like, you should be my girlfriend for a week. And then that escalates to them getting married in Las Vegas. And that's interesting. I don't really think that there's much more character motivations than just the fact that like this guy's rich and he just wants to have a really good time. And then meanwhile, Anora is like having this like really big like Cinderella moment where she's just like, oh my God, I'm going to be living in a mansion. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to finally not have to be a stripper anymore. I'm going to be this guy's like kind of personal stripper, but in a way she does kind of fall in love with him. And I think it's a very interesting thing. This movie depicts love bombing insanely well because I think that on top of just, paying Anora and giving her all this money or whatever, he also has a lot of these moments in between the sex and stuff like that where he's just like treating her as a regular person, offering to buy her drinks, offering to, light up a bong for her. I think that's what it is. I'm gonna be honest with you, I know nothing about drugs. So a lot of the sequences where they're doing drugs and stuff like that, I'm like, woo, you go. I don't know what you're doing, but have fun, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, this movie is weird. I don't understand how it won a bunch of Oscars, if I'm being totally honest with you. I feel like this is the kind of movie where like you watch it and like there's a lot of really funny sequences, but like the first 40 minutes of this movie is essentially just like montages of like this strip club and then, getting drunk and partying and then another strip club and then awkward sex scene. And then you get to see her at her day job where she's, stripping again and then awkward sex scene and then awkward sex scene. And then he's like, hey, want to be my girlfriend? And she's just like, give me more money. And he's like, for sure. And then they montage through them like going on dates, getting drunk together, him introducing, her to all of his friends and just giving her a bunch of attention and treating her like she's like an absolute queen and constantly like praising her and all this stuff. And this is where I come say like this is kind of like love bombing personified. Like he really does love bomb the fuck out of her because on top of just giving her money, he's giving her attention, he's making her feel like she's a part of something. And then he suggests, hey, let's go get married. And then it creates this whole fiasco of the fact that like he really was not supposed to be marrying someone. And even though, he's rich and he's invincible and he feels like he could just do whatever the hell he wants, his parents now know he did something he's not supposed to, and he's going to get in a shit ton of trouble. And instead of facing his problems like a man, he runs away. And then we get this very interesting little road trip movie where Anora has to go searching for her husband, who she honestly doesn't know anything about, because when she's with the three Russians who work for Ivan's family, and they're trying to figure out, like, where would he go? What kind of places would he go to? She was like completely clueless, and I think that that's a good sign, because all throughout this movie she's constantly defending, like, that's my husband, he loves me, we're gonna be together forever, he's, you know, was wanting to introduce me to his parents. And she's like insanely delusional in this film. Weird. I here's the thing, this movie is so odd. I would be honest, I might need to watch this movie a second time to fully understand what just happened. But like, I think one of the biggest takeaways of this movie is that, and I think that the final sequence that they have where they're talking outside of the plane, the last time the two like lovers have an interaction together, he mentions that, you know, he was just having fun. And it kind of shows like he just completely ruined her livelihood. She had to quit her job so that, you know, she could go on, you know, these little mini vacations with him. She could, you know, be his girlfriend, be his wife or whatever. And she was completely like getting rid of the life that she had before so that she could be with him. And she was very committed to him and, you know, loving him, giving him all of the support that he needs. And for him, it was just fun. And it just kind of goes to show, like, rich people will kind of just treat poor people however the fuck they want, because they're not used to consequences. They're not used to having to deal with that. And I think on the one hand, it's interesting to watch. It's one of those things where it's like, this movie is very uncomfortable to watch, but sitting through it, you kind of like get this sense of like, oh my God, I feel very uneasy. And it's something that like, I feel like rich people should watch this movie and kind of like realize how they're portrayed and be like, oh shit, we are kind of shitty people. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. But that being said, I think that it's kind of interesting in a world full of like eat the rich movies where like we're getting stuff like The Menu, and we're getting stuff like, I think there was a movie called like Opus or something like that that came out this year with blanking on her name right now, Iowa Debris, where like all of the rich people are kind of like, you know, losing in all these movies, where like the poor people like get one up on the rich people, and like all the rich people are like so pissed off, and the reason why they're suffering is because they're rich and they're selfish and they lack empathy and they're just absolutely shitty people, and karma is coming for them. So to go from a bunch of movies like that have came out in the last 5 or so years to watching Anora, where the bad people are these super rich wealthy people and they actually get away with being super rich douchebags, and they don't actually like, you know, learn any lessons from this movie, it's kind of disappointing. So I like it, but I feel like overall there's not really a lot of character developments. The plot is I don't think that the writing for this movie is particularly good. Like, I think that one of the Oscars that Sean Baker won for this movie was for writing it. And I will say, if it was up against A Real Pain, I don't understand how this movie beat A Real Pain. I think that Anora is such a one-dimensional character. Ivan is such a one-dimensional character. The character of Igor, one of the side goons or whatever, who has a lot of like empathy and, you know, is weird because like all these rich people or whatever, they're just like kissing up to the rich people and they really just want to make the rich people happy. And then you have Igor, who's like actually trying to help, you know, Anora out. Also, her name is Annie, and she doesn't like going by Anora, but they titled this movie Anora, and I think that that does kind of go to show this movie does kind of feel sexist. And I don't know if that's a takeaway that I should have from this, but like, I don't know if she really passes the Bechdel test, because almost every time she's talking to other female characters throughout this movie, it's about her mans that she has. Does this movie pass the Bechdel test? I don't think it does. I don't understand why. I was expecting this to be like a, oh my God, powerful woman moment. I don't think it is. And that's really weird to me that this movie, I don't understand why Mikey Madison, sorry, is it Mickey or Mikey? Because I've been saying Mikey. I'm assuming it's Mikey Madison. I don't understand why she won an Oscar for this movie. I do think that, like, there's a lot of moments where she portrays that depression really well, and I do think that the last scene is really captivating, but it's like 30 seconds out of the entire 2.5 hour long movie. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, I guess. I don't know. I think that this movie, wasn't what I expected it to be, and I am not a fan of this kind of movie. I think that the style of it is fun. There are a lot of moments where it feels very like suffocating, and I think it is intentional. And the whole sequence with, you know, Ivan figuring out, oh my God, his parents are on the way, and him running away, and then them having to like pin Anora down or whatever and like hold her until the guy who's coming to like meet up with them is there. That entire sequence is relatively fun. There's a guy on the phone who's like trying to figure out what's going on, and there's just so much yelling and fighting and a bunch of things breaking, and he's just like, somebody tell me what is happening, please. And meanwhile, Anora is just like going off on all of these people and being a total asshole, and it's just so entertaining to watch. It is incredibly funny, but I fail to see the main points of this movie, which I think is a painful thing, because this movie won 4 Oscars and it doesn't necessarily feel like it should have won 4 Oscars, in my opinion. That being said, the editing is pretty interesting. I can see why the best editing is definitely a thing. Direction, maybe? I don't know. I do think that some of the shots that they do with like the close-ups on people's faces and stuff like that is fun. I think that those are good choices. And the way that they film certain like party sequences are pretty entertaining. I guess I could see why the direction would also win. This movie just overall to me just doesn't feel like a very complete story. But that being said, if I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 100, I would give it a solid 77. I don't really see the massive appeal of it. I don't think that Anora really has many character motivations. You don't understand why she's doing the things that she's doing. She seems like a badass, which is awesome, but like also she seems like a character that's very street smart. In the beginning of this movie, she's doing a lot of things that really makes it seem like she's, a genius. And then like the second she meets Yvonne, all of that goes out the window. And it is really weird how she actually seems to like lose character development throughout this movie, which is odd to me. But yeah, that being said, that's just my thoughts and opinions. If you guys did really like this movie, please feel free to let me know why you enjoyed it, what kind of parts I'm kind of missing, and like some of the like moments that really make you think, yeah, this is a great piece of cinema. But that's it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.